Here's another piece of very nice audio equipment. This is a audio research Classic 60 power amplifier. This belongs to the same friend who dropped off his preamp, which I've already cleaned up and tested. It's working well. So he dropped off his power amp for me to check out. So I will do that. Okay, I just powered this up. Got it. The output's connected on the 8 ohm taps to my 8 ohm dummy loads. I'm feeding a 1 kilohertz signal in through my DAC and from the computer, and controlling the volume from the computer. And as I started raising the input levels, I was only able to get up to about 14 volts of output, which equates to about, what, 25 watts I think it was, before I started seeing distortion on the scope. So I think first thing I'll do is go ahead and blow the dust out of this thing, maybe check the tubes and do a good visual look-see before going any further. But both channels seem to be working properly and outputting a clear sine wave to about the same level before we started getting clipping distortion. So I'll check that out next. Alright, I took the back shield off, and you can see those fans are pretty dusty. I'll get them clean. And as we fly over the power amp itself, see, it's got a good layer of dust too that needs to be cleaned off on top of these tubes. And these little things were sitting in here. One was sitting down like that, and this one was kind of half off like it's shown there. The only thing I can think of is that these were on these two capacitors here to prevent the top from pushing down maybe and shorting out. They don't actually fit on anymore. I think they've shrunk down over the years, and they won't go back on top of the cap. So we may have to figure out something differently to insulate those if needed. But there's the layer that has to be blown out. I'll go ahead and fire up the compressor again and see if we can get this cleaned up. After cleaning this up, it's looking a lot nicer. Got it powered back on again, and it's drawing about, let's see if I can get that without glaring, 2.76, 2.75 amps. So it's putting out some heat off of these output tubes. Well, before we get to the testing, today's IPA we're testing is called Left of the Dial by Interborough Spirits and Ales. It's West Coast style IPA. And this is from Brooklyn, New York. Very good. I like it. Alright, so the amp, it seems to be working okay. I don't really see an issue with it right now. I've got it hooked up to the dummy loads, and signal coming in through my DAC, and monitoring on the oscilloscope, and monitoring the RMS volts here on my meter. So what I'll do is go ahead and start this, or give it some volume here, and you can hear it start to sing. Now I'll go up until I just get clipping on the scope and back it off just a little bit. So it's still a little too high, right about there. So that runs about 18 volts. Let me kill this. Bring that back down. So if we do the math here, just 18 times 18 divided by 8 equals right at 40 watts. Now I was thinking this was running too low of wattage because it says it's a 60 watt amplifier, classic 60. But as I was reading through the manual, I realized that's the total power from both the channels. So this is definitely doing 60 watts per channel. They're actually probably closer to 80 watts per channel, at least at 1 kilohertz. So it looks like it's putting out the proper power. Cleaned up. I may go ahead and test those tubes just to see if they are reading fairly new. I think they probably are, but we'll do that as a quick check. I've already checked the voltages, the B plus up here, and it looks correct. So go ahead and test the tubes before I button this thing up and play some music through it. But it looks like it's working properly. Well, I tested all the driver tubes, these little guys here. There's 4 of them. And it's a 6FQ7. So the GM is supposed to be about 2600 when they're brand new. And you see I'm getting right around 2000. These are all measuring kind of in the good range, but maybe a little bit down on emissions. But now I'm measuring these 6550s, and I couldn't find any tube data on my Hickok tester, but I did find it on my, so where is it? There it is right there, on the ICO 667 tester. And all of them have been measuring in the replace area right between 30 and 40 on that scale. So they're pretty consistent, but these are Solvtech tubes. Solvtech 6550s. So I don't know if they are normally lower than a normal 6550, or if they're actually getting a little weak. I'll have to do a little bit more research, but they looked okay on the scope, so maybe I'll go ahead and plug this thing in to listen to some music through it and see how it sounds. Well, I did fire this thing up and play some music through it, through the preamp and then into the power amp, and the sound was not good. It had a very distorted sound to it, especially on the bass side. So I think those tubes are probably worn out. I talked to the owner, and he said when he bought this unit it was a demo unit. So it probably had a lot of hours on it when it was in the store. And then he's played it many hours too. And you know, it's over, well, what, 30 years old now. So I think those tubes are just plain worn out. Now I did find a setting online for the Hickok tester for the 6550, which I've got it set up for right now, so that when we check it, you can see these are solidly in the replace area. I also found one for a KT88, which is similar. So if I set it up to test it if it's a KT88, 2390, it shows a little bit better, but still solidly in the replace. So, and this is one of the worst ones. Some of the other ones are a little bit better, but they're all looking like they're pretty worn out. So the owner decided to go ahead and refresh all the tubes. So we've already got them on order. So 8 new 6550s. And for the driver tubes, and we're even going to replace the little Chinese-made preamp tube in there too. So once those come in, we'll do a quick test on them, see how they look, and plug them in and see if this sounds a little bit better. I've been given, while waiting for the tubes to arrive, I've been giving the chassis a good look. One thing I found was this little resistor down here. Let me zoom in on that. little bit, let it focus. So that is looking a little, oops. Try to keep it in focus. It's looking a little burned up. And I measured across that, and it's measuring about 1 ohm. And it is this resistor right here that isolates the chassis ground from the signal ground. It's supposed to be about a 10 ohm resistor. So I believe something's happened there to toast that guy. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can lift a leg and get a real measurement on it, but I think it's probably got an issue. Alright, we got a new 10 ohm resistor installed between the signal ground and chassis. So now, let's see if we can go from ground lug on the power plug to the signal ground. Got just a little over 10 ohms of resistance instead of 1 ohm. Well, the tubes arrived, so I've got 8 new Sovtech 6550s. And we got 4 new old stock GE 6FQ7s for the drivers, and a new JJ Electric E88cc. These are made in the Slovak Republic. So this tube goes in the preamp. So I freshened that up, and then all the other, there's the output tubes and the driver tubes installed. And I did play a little bit of music through this, and it sounds much better. The distortion is all gone. So right now I'm doing the bias adjustment, which you're supposed to do if you change the tubes. And here's the procedure. Now it does say you're supposed to find these test points 1, 2, and 3, and 4 for the right and the left side. Now nothing on this thing is silk screened. They say they're accessible from the bottom, and I had to look and find them. So here is 2 and 4 in that position right there for the right hand side, and here's 1 and 2 right there, which I've kind of written in marker for the left hand side. So you're supposed to put your meter on there and adjust the little potentiometer, which I'll show you where it is, for 0.065 or 65 millivolts. And the adjustment is, if you can even see it there. Let me turn the light on. Maybe it'll show up. That's that little blue potentiometer right there at the edge. All right, about there. So I've got it at 66 millivolts here and 64 millivolts on the other side. And they say it varies a little bit from side to side, but you want to adjust it until you're as close as you can get. So that procedure is done. So ready to move on to the next one. Alright, this servo balance calibration. It says you don't normally have to do this when changing tubes, so I thought I'd do it anyway just to check. And it says to check between these 2 test points, 2 and 5, and adjust for less than 0.2 millivolts. And see, I've got less than 1 millivolt, and it's really between B1 and B2 on the output transformers. So I've checked that on both sides and getting the same reading, so I think that's adjusted properly. So I think we're good. I think this thing's ready to put the bottom on and play some music through it. Okay, well, I got the covers back on the power amp, and it's hooked up to multiple sources. Right now I'm playing from the reel-to-reel. I've also tried it out with a turntable, CD and everything, and sounding great. So it looks like the tubes were the issue with the sound, and so I'll continue to listen to it here for a little while and just do a good break-in with the tubes, and then if no issues are discovered, I'll call the owner back and have him come get it. Thanks for watching.